Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome into episode 5 Kayfabe Kouncil, show where we review and critique news, topics, and segments in the world of professional wrestling. My name is PrettyTony, and alongside me is TFJ0ker. Joker, what's the crack?
The crack is, as always, PT90 with the temperature closing in on that. To be quite fair, this weekend it's been a nice and warm weekend for us over here, where I have been trying to battle against it with a really lackluster fan. What about yourself?
Yeah, especially in the middle of the week, I over here had a bunch of just really warm days up and reaching into the 80s into the 90s Fahrenheit with like tons of humidity. And likewise, my little fan was just not was putting in work, but it was helping a little bit, but I wanted it to help more.
Yeah, I have this really crappy little plastic fan that I've had for going on a decade now, I think. And it's probably not doing as much as it wants to be doing, or rather I want it to be doing. But every little helps, I suppose. My PC kicks out more cold air than the fan did, but I need to get myself a bowl of ice or something for the coming days.
Yeah,
Set it
something.
behind that.
Yeah, it's definitely lots of drinks with ice and potentially some frozen drinks per se. And yeah, definitely maybe some slushy or some ice cream. I don't know, but it's the time of year where it's starting to get a little bit warm, but we'll see. We'll see how the upcoming summer season treats us.
Yeah, just half a pint of ice is about what my recommendation is, because then the ice will stay there for a couple of drinks.
There you go. Man, quite the interesting week in wrestling. A lot more happened outside of the shows and the ring than did happen inside.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot more information to be determined outside of the ring this week than really genuinely interesting stories and stuff that happened inside the confines of wrestling TV.
Yeah, so sometimes when art imitates life or life imitates art, it can go into one or the other and influence the latter or the former for that matter. But yeah, it was man, some of these weeks when it's just like we get bombarded, and no disrespect, but the MJF shooting on Tony Khan and AEW feels like a lifetime ago.
It really does. We were complaining a few weeks ago. It's like there's so much to talk about. We need to pick what we have to do. We don't want to talk about everything, so we have a super long show. And then this week we're like, what do we do? What do we do? Like, what is there? Somebody help! What do I do with my hands? So yeah, it's definitely one of those weeks where we're going to have to wait for an awful lot of things to air out, and come to completion whenever the information is involved, and see what happens, so that we can have actual discourse about it, not just hearsay and conjecture.
Yeah, like Joker mentioned, there's a lot of stories that came out this past week where tons of speculation, not much information. Really, we could potentially have a 3 hour long conversation with like, here's the 2 or 3 things we know for sure, and then just 2.5 2.5 hours of just speculation. So rather than kind of speak to things we kind of don't know or kind of are just maybe confused, or we're going to make things up, but rather talk about things that we can definitely know and sort of speak a little bit more confidently to.
Yeah, so to those who are new to the channel, this is like we are having a casual conversation between PT and I about things. But yes, it is structured. We do have points we want to talk about, but it is genuinely a casual conversation between two buds who want to talk about the wrestling. But yesterday, when we got together to talk about the show, talk about what's going on, talk about what we should do, we spent about an hour just arguing about, does this even make the cut? Does this make the cut? We talk about absolute random nonsense. if it's going to make the cut and stuff, and then we'll eventually settle on stuff. But yeah, it's definitely something that we have been blessed with in the past weeks and cursed with this week.
Yeah, so if this topic's obviously if it's based on the title of the show as well as the thumbnail, if you're watching it on YouTube, you'll see what we're discussing. But yeah, again, it's one that I'd rather not spend potentially more than an hour just talking speculative, and when we just don't know kind of what's going on with certain stories that came out this week. All right. Well, like always, we appreciate everybody giving us a chance, and thank you guys for so much for giving us a listen and giving us a watch. Before we kick into the show proper, we here at Kayfabe Kouncil were saddened to hear the passing of Dave Hebner, 73, former promoter, road agent, and referee known for his time in WWE and Impact Wrestling. Our thoughts are with his family and friends at this time. All right. As a reminder, you can find us on video form at youtube.com/Kayfabe Kouncil and in audio form wherever you get your podcasts from. On this week's episode, we look at a deep dive into AEW's build to Forbidden Door. So coming up first, AEW building toward Forbidden Door. I figured we'd start with the kind of bigger topic that's sort of been going on this past week. We have a little bit clearer picture in terms of the interim AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Now that we see Jon Moxley will now face Hiroshi Tanahashi at Forbidden Door for the interim AEW World Championship.
Yeah, I have a couple of love-hate things about this particular match. I love the fact that it's going to happen. I hate the fact that it took us around the houses. You could have had just this match announced, because that's the way it looked like it was going to go. Let's face it, it was supposed to be CM Punk versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. That was what we were supposed to expect. I don't think anyone out there was, going to be upset by that match, but that is what we thought was going to happen. And then, according to the memes, CM Punk went down with a stub toe. Of course, a foot to a wrestler is their lifeblood. You can't do an awful lot of things without your foot. So stubbing a toe, serious business. Standing on a Lego, also pretty dang critical. So best wishes to the stub toe of CM Punk. But whenever we find out then that Moxley was the somehow, I don't know really the overall ins and outs of the AEW ladder system, but Moxley was the number one contender. He was the guy. In my mind, it was then Mox versus Tanahashi for this interim title, because we already knew that it was going to be CM Punk versus Tanahashi. But no, we had to have this whole battle royale. Then we had to have Kyle O'Reilly versus Moxley. Then we had to have Tanahashi go through a couple of was it a couple of matches or just one match?
At Dominion, he defeated Hiroki Goto to
that was
advance
it. So he had
face
his
Jon
match.
Moxley.
Yeah, so he had his match to face Jon Moxley. Not gonna lie, kind of knew it was going to end up Mox versus Tanahashi, like an awful lot of people did. Was it a good build? Yeah, middle of the road for me. An awful lot of it was probably expected. There was nothing too surprising for this for me. But it's Mox versus Tanahashi. So it's a Jon Moxley match. What can you do but go, ooh, I wonder how brutal it's going to be.
Yeah, so we definitely have set up that match again as a small recap. CM Punk going down with an injury, interim title. So they had a battle royale with Cheese on 2 weeks ago, Dynamite. Kyle O'Reilly won that to face Jon Moxley in the main event of said Dynamite, and Jon Moxley won. That was the AEW side. And then at Dominion, Tanahashi prevailed over Hiroki Goto. So then set up the Moxley-Tanahashi match again for the interim AEW World Heavyweight title. So on this past week's episode of Dynamite, both men showed up and did a face-to-face, did a bit of a town hall. So both men make their way to the ring and go face-to-face, and an Holy S chant breaks out in the crowd. Moxley says he's been chasing Tanahashi for a long time, and finally he's been here in all his glory. John says that he's chased him across Japan, across the Pacific, everything, and he has done in New Japan has been about him. Moxley says that there's only one man people call Ace, but not for long. Moxley says Tanahashi deserves the respect, but right now he is the best wrestler on the planet. Lots of people are pretending, but he lives it. And then Mox says there is more on the line than the AEW world title, as everything is on the line for him, and he has worked for 3 years to become. So we get John providing a little bit of insight again as to the history of the proposed match between Tanahashi and Moxley. Again, after his departure from WWE in 2019, Mox joined AEW, but then also New Japan as well. Had a couple runs with the IWGP United States Championship due to some extenuating circumstances, some inclement weather. I think it was a typhoon.
It's nice to call it typhoon, yeah.
I was trying to recall if it was a typhoon or a hurricane, but it was a typhoon, thank you. Yeah. Typhoon interrupted travel to Japan, and then obviously the ongoing global pandemic also affected travel and things for that. So he ended up kind of missing sort of each other on the build to a match that he's kind of been looking for pretty much 2 years. So now they finally got face to face. So what was your impressions of the promo and the bill and that section?
So I have this infatuation with anime, and one in particular, Haikyuu. It's a volleyball anime, and in that they talk about the ace. Like, they have these characters who are referred to as the aces. So whenever you have this ace, they are like the pillar for your sort of team and for your sort of thing. So whenever Mox is referring to Tanahashi as the ace, and obviously he is the ace of New Japan, it just kind of hammered home to me that this is not something that we see in a Western culture of an ace. We don't refer to anyone like that. For at least for me personally, like, we have really good players, but sometimes in football, soccer over here, well, it's football over here, but it's soccer for the American folk. You have like a team of superstars. Like, you don't have an ace because you have several. So to kind of think of anybody like that was actually kind of really cool, because I'm not a big NJPW fan. I don't really watch an awful lot of NJPW wrestling. And Tanahashi was very low on my radar, like an awful lot of individuals from NJPW were. But obviously, I'm kind of infatuated with this idea of the ace, because you have this guy who's the pillar of NJPW. Like, I really want to see what he can do. And if an awful lot of people have this reverence, this respect for him, to call him the ace, that's not just somebody going, "Oh, you're the champ." You don't have to be the champ to be called the ace. Like, he is a big deal, and I want to see that. So to have another guy who can be sort of construed as an ace in Jon Moxley, the ace of AEW, the ace of Western wrestling. I'd probably argue you've got Kenny Omega in there as well, and Roman Reigns, if you want to include everybody. but I really want to see this match. I never really like. I was ragging on the build, but I really want to see this match, and it was all because of the presentation that Mox gave in this promo, because he looked at Tanahashi and he was like, I'm gonna make you call me Ace." And I was just like, I like that. I like that presentation, that build, that verbiage used to refer to Tanahashi and then to refer to himself.
Yeah, I think you made an excellent point there. In terms of maybe it's lost on us, sort of in North American sports, or kind of culture like that. And the idea of an ace. Again, it's you don't necessarily have to be the champion. Up until Dominion, the world champion was Okada, and now it's Switchblade Jay White. But again, when you think about the notion of the ace, it's the person that if you think of a club, you think of a team, you think of a company, sort of who's like the point person, who's kind of the first or the really the first identifiable figure for a lot of folks. And then you think of that person as the ace, right? So with Tanahashi, I mean, since him being a young boy in the early 2000s up until now, I mean, I don't even have to list off the number of accolades that he's gotten, but to needless to say that he is basically won pretty much everything there is to have won in New Japan, as well as having stellar matches. And before New Japan's a little bit more prominent rise in the Western sector towards late 2017 to 2018, even before that in the mid 2000s to early 2010s, Hiroshi Tanahashi definitely helped carry New Japan through kind of some low times, for sure, and he was always sort of the constant for there. So like the notion of ace again, he was world champion, he was intercontinental champion, he's been the United States champion, never open weight, tag champion, again, all these different accolades. He's the guy that you can send to represent your company. If you want to have a radio interview, if you want to have a television interview, if you want to have a news article written or something like that, he can be your go-to guy. Hence the term ace. I do feel like there are guys, you mentioned John Moxley for AEW can definitely, there can be an argument for ace. You can call Kenny for sure. Other folks would also argue with ace. I do make a notion of the description that I provided for ace. Roman and Charlotte for the WWE can definitely be construed as ace. Like again, they don't have to be champion, but they can be like, all right, me in higher up, I want them to represent, I want them to do an interview, I want them to think, because that they're going to represent you well and be kind of the point person for you. So
yeah, using your definition there, I would actually personally put Seth there for the WWE.
Good
Seth
call. Good call.
freaking Rollins, because we've talked about him before. That man can lose matches, and he still remains Seth freaking Rollins. Like, he is one of those guys that you will send out to do all that, and he is such a big deal. He has this really good presentation. He has this aura about him, and he is really good. There are other individuals that you would do those same things for, but more in a spokesperson-y kind of way. The New Day comes to mind for that sort of thing, and most notably with them being the tag champs and stuff, they're great spokespeople. But yeah, in terms of champ, in terms of ace status, I would definitely include Seth Rollins there. But like, yeah, going kind of back to the whole point, it is not really a term used over here, or as you've said, in America as well, to refer to anybody. Because we always in wrestling think of that's the guy or that's the girl, like that is the woman, the champ. They are the champ. We don't call them the ace. because eventually they're going to lose, and then we don't care about them anymore. Um, so for me, because of watching the anime, like I'd said, I'd got this. It was really romanticized version of what this word meant, and I really liked it because there's a lot of I suppose you could say there was a lot of just strangeness as to why they were kind of calling this person that. And then you kind of built up the characters and you saw what it meant to be an ace, and the awe that people had for an ace. And Tanahashi now has to live up to that ideal for me personally, all because of the promo that Moxley cut on him, saying that he wants to be called ace. He's chased him. He's going to do this thing. He's going to beat him, and he's going to be the interim champ.
Yeah. Likewise, you mentioned earlier, you didn't have a huge amount of New Japan knowledge, and just due to availability and stuff.
I'd say I still don't really.
That's fair. But John in the promo, the town hall, he did a really good job again, giving a little insight. Hey, I've been chasing you. We haven't had that match. You're the ace. You're gonna call me ace. Type of thing. I think he did a really good job of informing some of the laxed fans who may not be familiar either with Hiroshi Tanahashi, those two guys' history, or just New Japan in general, or just reiterating or reminding folks who were familiar. So I think John did a bang up job with that.
It was very good.
But regardless, again, these guys have a little bit different styles, but hot dang, are these guys going to have a really, really fun match. So it's definitely one I'm looking forward to for sure.
Oh, definitely excited. Obviously the last time we sort of looked at an AEW title match, it was CM Punk versus Adam Page, and that was a banger of a match. And these are two completely different guys fighting over this title. Like obviously I don't know too much about Tanahashi and his style, but I know Moxley's style. Um, he's going to bring that sort of brutality, that ground pound, that submission style, that just pound you into the ground. So I can safely say that this is going to be a really good match.
Agreed for sure. The contrast of styles absolutely will make for a tremendous match. And if you're excited for the match, definitely let us know as well. All right, as we switch gears to the All Atlantic, Pacific, Arctic, Irish Sea Championship for AEW. This will, of course, had to pop my boy Joker over here. So, this will be a 4-way match at Forbidden Door, as we saw Pac qualify by beating Buddy Matthews. We saw Miro qualify for beating Ethan Page. So that's 2 of the 4 slots. We have now the next match will be Malachi Black versus Penta Oscuro for the 3rd slot, and a New Japan entry, which I believe at the time of writing is potentially slated to be a match between Clark Connors and Tomohiro Ishii. So, Joker, in terms of the All Waters Championship match, what have you been feeling? What have you been vibing?
Yeah, the All Waters title. I don't know. I feel like this is one of those titles that I can change the name of it, and I definitely did like the Irish Sea being mentioned there. We could add in the Irish Sea, the Indian Ocean, the Dead Sea, the English Channel Championship, whatever you want to call it. And just for those of you who are completely oblivious as to why we might be ragging on this title, it is called the All Atlantic Championship, but there's Japanese flag and a Chinese flag on the title. Those ain't in the Atlantic Ocean, so it's ambiguous apparently. So this tournament to me, I like tournaments. I definitely do like tournaments. I think that AEW do a grand job of doing tournaments. They do them a lot. I feel like it might be a bit of a crutch for them. But I definitely do like the fact that all of the entrants in this are international. None of them are American. You can somewhat make an argument for Ethan Page being in there as a North American, as a Canadian, but still international. You've got I absolutely love Pac. You know, Pac is from the UK. He is an absolutely amazing individual. Had a stonker of a match against Buddy Matthews, and always will. Like I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that. But Miro versus Ethan Page was disappointing by comparison, but mainly because we have to show big old Miro doing big old Miro things. I do like Ethan Page though. He's definitely one of my favorite guys because he's just a cocky heel. He's just a cocky heel, and I love him. Um, this build though has kind of been marred by some contractual issues, which kind of leads us to believe we know who at least one more individual is going to be in this, even though it's TBD on two fronts. We kind of know or hope to know. I presume, I'm not going to put words in PT's mouth. I presume that Malachi Black is going to go through um, because of reported issues through the week with CMLL preventing individuals from gaining entry through the Forbidden Door. Um, so this international match is going to have a lot of guys who are really good. And again, not a big NJPW fan, so I'm not sure. I've heard of Tomohiro Ishii. I haven't. Who was the other individual?
Clark Connors.
Never heard of Clark Connors. So I've no idea. I can only assume because I have heard of people making a big deal of Tomohiro Ishii that he might be the one to go through, and so we'll have this four-way match between Miro, Pac, which by the way is interesting as well. But I'll come to that. Miro, Pac, Malachi Black, and Ishii for this brand new title. It's going to be pretty interesting. But I don't know if you remember from a few years ago, Miro faced Pac in the Fed, and Miro suffered a little bit of an injury there, and then on his Twitch channel, I believe it was, he said that he would straight up refuse to wrestle with Pac ever again.
Yeah, so a lot of going on, and that's a really good point. So I do like the notion of Miro as well as Pac being in this match, for sure. I think a little bit of the history as well, and sort of the grandeur of it. To the point you were making earlier, this as it's being called, the Atlantic All Atlantic title. I've get notions or like vibes like they kind of want this to be a little bit of a feel of if you're going to make a comparison to the Fed, the Intercontinental Championship, where you kind of have a little bit of obviously it's not going to be the world title, but maybe this could be like their secondary title, where it has maybe a little bit more prominence on the non-North American or at least non-American folks, where you give a little bit of a spotlight or you shine that spotlight on international folks. Again, so I have that sort of inclination to it. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head before, like the Pac versus Buddy Matthews match, dude, absolute like banger. And these guys, when they put them together and kind of whatever configuration, singles match, tag match, trios, like they will just, man, be an exciting, yeah, for real. They'll just have an exciting ass match. And then, and to your other point about Miro versus Ethan Page, again, it was a different style of match. With Ethan Page WCWing Miro in it, with it was kind of two, like, it was an interesting dynamic because it was kind of like it was kind of like two heels in it, sort of.
It was you had your overbearing aggro heel in Miro who was just gonna bear down and want to destroy you, and then you had your cocky heel who was going to try and get away from you in Ethan Page, and he did what he had to do, and he got done what he got done.
Yeah, agreed. So it was definitely an interesting notion, but yeah, I feel like for sure Miro was kind of the little bit safer and kind of better bet in terms of a dynamic for the upcoming match. I do wholeheartedly agree that Malachi Black will win on two fronts, specifically because Pac is already in the match. So his matchup with Malachi Black versus Penta Oscuro, it would make sense to Malachi Black, again, because you're going to have one representative from Death Triangle and one representative from the House of Black. It'd be weird if two Death Triangle guys were in there. So, but it makes sense from storytelling for Malachi Black there. And then also the murmurings, unfortunately, of CMLL potentially stopping any AAA contracted guys from working with New Japan, as CMLL has a working agreement with New Japan. So again, which is why Joker and I both think Malachi Black's going to go for it. And yeah, I think if it is indeed true, Tomohiro Ishii, hot dang. So you can be in the fourth person. So you can have kind of two, as Biggie again would say, two big beefy boys slapping meat in Miro and Ishii. Biggie. Also having the sort of agile Pac and potentially Malachi Black. So either way, I think that's going to be just a really, really fun matchup and showcase for Forbidden Door.
Yeah. Fatal four ways, the 4-way matches kind of get a bit crazy. Often ends up with you got your 2 1v1s, and then you have a possible 2v1 after one person is laid out, and then you have the return, and then you have getting rid of one of the heels, and you start trying to mount the comeback, and then you have the inevitable swapping of the 1v1s, and it's pretty easy to see the sort of way that the match goes, but it's whenever you have people like Pac and Miro and Malachi Black, 3 people who I know their styles, like those 3 individuals can put on a match, and I will love to watch it. So adding in Ishii, somebody else who is highly rated by pretty much everybody, again, NJPW complete novice. So having this big name in here kind of only adds to the grandeur of this match, and this could be a contender for match of the night.
It's like you were inside my brain. This definitely could be a contender, like you said, for match of the night too. Yeah, just like we know two of the combatants. We have an inclination about at least the third or maybe the fourth, but either way, if it turns out to be sort of that makeup of that match, yeah, super just hot dang, that's just gonna be a banger for sure.
Definitely.
All right, moving on to the next one, we have Thunder Rosa, turns out, is going to face Toni Storm. So we saw on this past week's episode of Dynamite, Toni Storm had a matchup with Britt Baker, which she won, moving, and I think Toni Storm is ranked 4th and Britt Baker is ranked 2nd, either way. But that moves now Toni Storm into the titleship contenders match for the title at Forbidden Door. I have to say, real quick before I throw it over to you, I know I made inclinations to, and this is taking nothing away from Britt Baker, but a little bit of Britt being Tony Khan's Charlotte in sort of semi-chosen one and kind of being a high player or high-ranked player in the women's division. But this is Britt's 2nd straight loss. Obviously, she won at Double or Nothing the Owen, and then lost in a tag match to Ruby and Toni, and then lost to Toni in a singles match here, which again, I feel like those wins mean more to the other ladies in elevating them than they do to hurt Britt. But I do like the notion of building up and making the other female superstars in the division feel more important in giving them a shot. But yeah, it's I like I said, I do like that they are representing the women's world championship at the upcoming pay-per-view.
Yeah, you need look no further for our opinions on the state of the AEW women's division than last week's video. We legitimately had a conversation about what they need to do, what they should do, what we would like to see, what needs to change in the world of wrestling. And we mostly had that conversation because of Thunder Rosa. And my opinion on the fact that she has been disgruntled recently with the way she has been used, um, and has been sort of portrayed, and the storyline she's gotten into, and how her title defenses really are. A first run for her has been very welcome to see because she took it off Britt Baker, the aforementioned Charlotte Flair of AW, and has seemingly just kind of got stuck, not really doing very much. Um, so I am really for this match. I really do want to see this match, and I want to see a nice competitive one. And I feel like from her run in WWE, I'd mentioned this to you. I don't know if you remember long ago. I'm not a big Toni Storm fan. I wasn't a fan of her look, of her style. I didn't really care about Toni Storm. But that has mostly been her presentation in WWE. Her AEW presentation, unfortunately, hasn't been much better. And the reason for that is because they don't know how to book the women's division. Um, this is mostly, and this is just my opinion, this is mostly being built up by fans who are big fans of Thunder Rosa, big fans of Toni Storm, and want to see the best for the women's division. Now, I do not want to argue that point. I want these women to have a much better sort of story going through their feud and the rivalry, and bring that into the match, and I'm sure they will put on a banger. Like, I'm not questioning their skill. It has all been about their presentation. I do not think that these women are incapable of doing a really good match. I just feel like the presentation has been a little bit sort of
Lackluster.
lackluster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Obviously, both ladies are really good workers, for sure in their different style. Thunder, obviously, with a little bit more of the speed based, and puts a little bit of the lucha style in it. Not too not to say that she's a luchadora, but she'll put some move in there. Obviously, Tony's background in Stardom and working in Japan as well has a bit of that style. You've seen it in the match with Britt Baker with the hip attack and kind of that sort of slightly more aggressive fighting style. But yeah, again, we're taking nothing away from either one of these women here. It's going to be just a heck of a match again. And I do like the notion of, again, with it being a AEW and a New Japan co-branding show, New Japan does not have a women's division. So every once in a while on one of their big shows like the January 4 show or New Year's Dash or Dantaku or Dominion, they might have a Stardom match, which is, for those that aren't aware, a larger promotion in Japan for women's wrestling. So they might have some stars come in for that to work a match on a New Japan show. But I think it also gives fans, New Japan fans that may be watching, a look at some more kind of Western female stars as well that they may or may not be familiar with. So either way, again, I mentioned when I opened the segment that I really do like that they are spotlighting the women's world championship here. Two tremendous athletes here. Should be banger, and I think it's good for everybody in here to see this match.
I 100% agree. Like, I can't agree more, because for all my negative first points, I have nothing but praise for this match. The fact that it's happening, because, like I said, go back to last week, hear what I had to say about the women's division. The TBS title seems like it's the big deal, but you want to promote your champion. You want to be promoting Thunder Rosa, and to be putting this individual in a match with someone like Toni Storm, who has come through with such fanfare, an absolutely well loved individual outside of the ring from previous reigns in from previous stints in the likes of WWE, the likes of, you said, Stardom. You know, these other promotions have built up her fan base, and now these individuals get to showcase their absolute talent on a big stage for an audience that, like you said, that might not normally see women's wrestling because of the aforementioned NJPW not having the women's division. Another addition to that is obviously the news coming out that Thunder Rosa could be on her way to face people in Joshi Pro as well. And again, I'm not a big fan of Japanese wrestling, mainly because it's harder for me to get, or it has been until I was able to find other avenues to get to that sort of thing. Like an awful lot of people, please do not hate or consider me any less of a fan because I can't watch any Japanese wrestling. And don't get me wrong, I know you're out there, but I love the absolute insanity of some of these personalities that come through from these wrestlers as well, because um there's uh Maki Ito
Mm.
is just an absolute delight, and Kairi Sane, like, I miss seeing Kairi Sane, I really do. And the fact that those two individuals exist, it just brings so much joy to me whenever I get to see. So Thunder Rosa going over there, being an ambassador for AW, being an ambassador for AW Women's Wrestling, and her getting this sort of run over with the females over at Joshi Pro, um, that area of wrestling as well can only do great things, because AEW need to step their game up with doing it at home.
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well. That'll be a fantastic piece again for. I think it's something that said Joker didn't have too much availability to see Japanese wrestling, especially like being in the UK for himself. I myself I'm a little bit more familiar, but I'm not hugely a ton. I do enjoy Japanese wrestling again, but it wasn't. I don't have a ton of availability in terms of the avenues or the accessibility in terms of being able to do it. So when I can watch it, I definitely enjoy it. But yeah, to that point, I think it'll be a phenomenal piece for Rosa to again be the ambassador. Like you said, I think that was an absolutely wonderful word to use. Expose some more of the Japanese audiences to some more of a little bit of a Western style. Again, because although there are gaijin, which are foreign talent in Japan, it's a little bit more of an attraction per se, especially when it comes to women's wrestling, for the likes of Stardom and like Joshi Pro, for example. Ton of homegrown stars in both promotions, but yeah, like they might come over for a tour, they might come there, but you don't kind of see them, for super long periods of time. Again, there are exceptions, always. But yeah, I think it'll be tremendous for that, and I think it's a good opportunity for both sides, for Thunder, excuse me, to get to kind of get a little bit of that vibe and kind of get a bit of that style. Not to say it's an excursion, but yeah, I think it'll be good for everybody in there, and the Rose and Storm match would be another banger for sure.
Definitely is going to be setting up that way anyway.
All right, on to the next piece here. We have Will Ospreay defending his IWGP United States Championship against Orange Cassidy. So the build here was 2 weeks ago. We had Ospreay and the United Empire show up and interrupt the match between FTR and Roppongi Vice, and they had a trios on Rampage. Thank you. And then we had a singles match where Ospreay, really strong back and forth, but Ospreay prevailed over Dax Harwood. And we ended up having a post-match beatdown with the United Empire kind of coming out and just kind of going to town on Dax there. And then we had who comes in for the save, but the Cash Wheeler and Roppongi Vice, and of course the returning Orange Cassidy. So we see, for those that aren't aware, obviously United Empire being a newer, larger stable in New Japan, but then also with Roppongi Vice, most notably Trent and Rocky Romero and Orange Cassidy being members of Chaos, another New Japan stable, coming for the save. So it kind of deepens that route for that. So how are you feeling about this match and or the build?
So this is one of those that I've sort of looked at what's going on and been interested. So I've done a little more digging into the individuals involved, specifically United Empire. Now Will Ospreay is one of those names, like Jack Sabre Jr. Jack Sabre Jr. Am I getting that right?
Zach.
Zack
with a
Sabre
Z.
Jr. Sorry,
Yeah, with a Z.
apologies.
No worries.
Apologies.
Yeah.
So Zack Sabre Jr. is like another one of those names that you kind of hear. It's like, oh, these guys are really good. They're over in NJPW. They're absolutely crushing it. And I do remember the Zack Sabre Jr. Promo from last week, which was equally very funny. But so I did keep an eye on United Empire and Will Ospreay, and dang, I'm just impressed. Like, I don't think there's anything that I can say like I hate about this presentation. I love the presentation, with them coming out with Osprey's music, by the way, is Zenith to God or whatever it is, or is an absolute banger. I love it. And them coming out with the flag, him coming out with like this big coat over him, and he has like a bear on his shoulder, like the bear's head or a lion's head or something. And I'm just like, his presentation is amazing. His promos have just been impassioned, and the most recent, whenever he won the IWGP US title, because I did watch that match and it was very, very good. He left without the title belt, and mainly because obviously Juice Robinson, having been the holder, has had to vacate it. They haven't got the belt for him, so he was pissed. And I just thought that him bringing that up, and he's just so he is this new faction leader akin to Bullet Club, who is opposed to Bullet Club, and just has this sort of aura about him that I can't help but look away and go, dude, like, I need to see more of this guy, and I need to see, what the hell is going on. And Grado Khan and
Jeff Cobb.
Jeff Cobb, I think I was going to say Jonah, but somebody else. Jeff Cobb they've just both won me over. Grado Khan, having had some marvelous Twitter escapades over the past few weeks, and Jeff Cobb just being an absolute monster of a man. I love my power game. I love the suplexes. I love the submissions. I love the big strikes. I have a special place in my heart for the spots, and I have a special place in my heart for all the aerial moves and the quick stuff. But whenever I see somebody like Jeff Cobb, I'm reminded of what you said about Big E and the big man slapping meat. Like, he's just one of those guys that, oh yeah, it's going to be rough. So whenever they came in and ruined that Roppongi Vice FTR match, I was like, oh, who the heck are these guys? And went off, did a little bit of reading, did a little bit of watching, had a look at them, and I'm really interested in this match, but more so because of Ospreay than Cassidy.
Yeah.
It's just me.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned for sure, like for folks that aren't familiar with Ospreay's kind of build, being a junior heavyweight, which is not to say that it's not the main event, but it's it's another division within New Japan Pro Wrestling. But he's come up the ranks. You might have seen some Twitter gifs or just kind of short videos shared around of earlier matches between he and Ricochet that are just doing some like kind of aerial wonderment, in terms of kind of the abilities and the skill that these guys can do. But yeah, I mean, he's been numerous time junior heavyweight championship for the IWGP in New Japan, and then rose to the heavyweight rank and got promoted in a sense. That's kind of how sort of they kind of dub it, and ended up being IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, but had to bow out due to a neck injury. So now he's come back. Obviously, he's the United British Heavyweight Champion in Rev Pro. He's now the IWGP United States Champion. Again, there's some controversy because the previous holder, Juice Robinson, has yet to surrender the belt after New Japan has vacated his reign, though. So again, he doesn't have the possession of physical belt, that one notwithstanding. Yeah, so I mean, for folks that aren't familiar, kind of a big dude, kind of a big deal. And you, again, you mentioned that Bullet Club forming in the mid 2010s, 2013. The notion of the United Empire has sort of been the slowly taking over or rivaling a group of gaijin or a foreign talent. It's almost kind of, not to say that they usurped the Bullet Club, but again, they're being pretty formidable in terms of huge factions in New Japan. So they've been around a little bit, but they've also they've grown kind of in prominence rather in a short amount of time more recently. But again, I think the to have Ospreay now being on a showcase for the North American or the Western audiences on this pay-per-view, and against Cassidy again, completely different style. And another member of Chaos, again, a different faction in New Japan. I think, yeah, this is definitely going to be, you can't sleep on Cassidy because his whole gimmick of kind of being the kind of cool hand Luke, but like when he turns it on, he can turn it on for sure. The dude can go for sure. But yeah, I think it's going to be, folks are definitely going to be sort of looking at Ospreay and kind of being the sort of person, at least at a peripheral glance, will be the guy that you're looking at in this match.
Yeah, definitely the trios match that introduced him to AW on Rampage, being his debut in AW, and he lost that match. Then to go on and fly straight back to Japan, win the IWGP, and come straight back. And then he has a one-on-one with Dax the Axe, and we've seen some amazing matches out of Dax. Obviously in the tag team title scene, but more recently for his singles run during the Bret Hart, not the Bret Hart, the Owen Hart Cup rather. Just names are out the wazoo today for me today apparently. And he had a really good showing. He's big. He's a big guy that can really go, and he's an absolute heavy hitter. And I love the match with him and Ospreay. So you just kind of sat there going, well, obviously it wasn't Ospreay that ate the pin during his loss, but it's still recorded as his loss. And then just to get this pin over Dax in the singles. And whenever Orange Cassidy returned, you saw Ospreay's face. He was just like,
Like, who's
Yeah,
this guy? Yeah,
okay.
so, yeah.
Like he's running in to make the save, but it's Orange Cassidy. He's like, you listening to his music. I was just bopping along. It's like, oh yeah, and you just come back to Ospreay's face, going, my guy. By the time you get here, I know you're the King of Sloth style, but like by the time you get here, we gonna be gone. And that was exactly the way it was. Obviously, everybody else having made the save. And while they were fighting, I did love to see Ospreay in the corner, just kind of looking at everybody, going, "What is going on, boys? I just won a match." Um, to your earlier point during the All Atlantic match with the Penta Oscuro reasoning for why we think that there is not going to be him winning in that match, we have heard recently that this match was supposed to be Will Ospreay versus uh
Andrade,
versus
right?
Andrade.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, versus
yeah.
Andrade. For the same reason, CMLL have sort of removed him from this high profile match. And I can't help feel like I don't want to take anything away from Orange Cassidy because we've seen Orange Cassidy do amazing things. And I'm happy to see him back after his injury has taken him out. But I can't help but feel like I really wanted to see Andrade versus Ospreay. And I don't know if I want to say the word I feel cheated, or I don't know if I don't even know if that's the best word to use. What do you think?
Yeah, the potential to have had Osprey and Andrade, and it goes back to Andrade being Lo Sombra in uh, working for New Japan before. I think, yeah, either way, in either guys, it would have been a phenomenal match. But the potential, and it still could happen down the road. But
Hmm.
I think again, because I feel like because of Cassidy's and Andrade's different styles, you could potentially expect a slightly different match, or slightly just a different match in general. But yeah, I think either way, once we kind of get a little bit of the Gaga out of the way for Cassidy, and then when they go into the sequences when they're both ready to work and kind of show out, yeah, this will just kind of be a fun match regardless. So
Yeah, it's definitely an Orange Cassidy sort of slow build. He's gonna mess around with Osprey for a while. Osprey's gonna get him. He's gonna start engaging in the in high speed antics, and it's gonna be really good. And hopefully, like you said, it is one for down the line. And this this match has been, or this build for this match has been the real catalyst for me to be like, okay, well, I kind of want to pay more attention to NJPW because of the United Empire. I've known about the Bullet Club for a long time, but I don't care about Jay White. I don't care about anybody in Bullet Club because it always just seems like everybody's in frickin' Bullet Club. Everybody's in Bullet Club and everybody has a sort of connection to it. So I was never like, oh yeah, cool, I have to go and check this out. Um, but the United Empire, I just felt like it was something a little bit more enticing. I don't know what it was. Like there's nothing really if you compare the two. There was nothing that's too different between the two. Um, but definitely has been. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I gotta go and check this out because maybe there's something cool. And then you start watching other stuff. So I will obviously end up watching other stuff, but I just hope that we don't get robbed of this Andrade Osprey match. And we don't have to wait until next year, possibly, for a Forbidden Door 2 pay per view to come around.
yeah, I mean, there's always like we mentioned, the opportunity to potentially do it down the line. And I have an inclination that the partnership will continue, and this might end up being sort of like a regular / yearly event where the two companies come together for a super show. So yeah, there's always more opportunities. Again, this is the first one, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, hopefully you're correct.
All right, and then on to lastly here, there is a 6-man or a trios match announced where Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Minoru Suzuki take on Wheeler Yuta, Shota, Umino, and Eddie Kingston. The build here came up at the tail end of the Moxley Tanahashi town hall. Jericho interrupted, doing his Jericho shtick, that he's the number one, he's the ace, watch out or he'll throw a fireball at you because he's a wizard, naturally. Out comes JAS for a bit of a beatdown, and then you had Wheeler Yuta come in, and Santana and Ortiz actually came in down, so we had folks come and make the save. But then members of Suzuki-gun, most prominently Lance Archer, as well as Desperado. I was like trying to make sure I remember all the names. Came out to assist. And then that's where we get the announcement. So
names
we
are hard today, dude.
Yeah, there's just so much information too. Making sure we can remember it all. The notes help, but for sure. But yeah, we have the announcement here from Chris again, with Chris Jericho here, Sammy Guevara, who newly joined the JAS in said promo, and Minoru Suzuki. Again, leader of Suzuki-gun, a faction in New Japan, which has affiliated Lance Archer as well as Desperado, as sort of his hired guns to help Chris take on, again, Wheeler Yuta, Shota, Umino, and Eddie Kingston. So quite the interesting collection, sort of on the other side, facing Chris, Sammy, and Minoru.
Yeah, it all sort of came around, like you said, at the end of that hair versus hair match between Chris Jericho and Jeepers, why are names so hard today? Ortiz. I was about to say Santana, and then I was like, no, that's the wrong one. Ortiz. And we see this pretty nice back and forth match between Ortiz and Jericho. You're like, all right, cool, this is pretty aggressive, pretty competitive, but Ortiz is going to win this because what's funnier than Chris Jericho with a bald head? Nothing against guys with bald heads. Come on,
that's us, baby.
Club. So that's us. We're in the club here. I just wanted Chris Jericho to be one of us. Anyway, who would come out but to make the ever loving save, but Fuego del Sol, or so we thought. I was screaming at my screen. I was like, Fuego, what are you doing? Why are you in? And then, yeah, of course, it was Sammy Guevara. Finally back with the JAS after its name change. Nice little bit of a heel turn, heel return to the group for Sammy. I'm very happy about that decision to be made. And it's just one of those things that at the end of the match, you had so much going on with as soon as Ortiz got pinned and everybody's running away, you saw him and he had the scissors. He took the scissors from the barber, I think, grabbed the scissors, start cutting his dread, just cutting everything off. And he just started shaving his head. Eddie was cutting a promo, saying he's a man of his word. And, all this absolute visceral scene. And then he just starts shaving his head, screaming blood and guts and all this. And you're just like, all right, Ortiz, we know. We kind of know. It was an absolute amazing way to start things off, because you were just kind of like, okay, cool, this isn't going to get much better. But only for this sort of mishmash of people to come around, and yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think the aforementioned hair versus hair match to start off Dynamite added the layers, obviously, with the subsequent build to Blood and Guts for that, as well as the Sammy sort of just realigning, shall we say, with Chris Jericho into that, and then to again sort of meld slightly a couple different storylines into the tail end of the Tanahashi Mox town hall promo into that, and then bring that sort of that vitriol and that intensity into that, and then mixing in the absolute beast himself, Minoru Suzuki, the final boss, if you will. Yeah, just kind of there's a lot to think. So I did appreciate in that sense that we're having a mixed trios match in terms of AEW guys, New Japan folks as well, blending a little bit of that intensity into now this to set it up. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, so like last night there was a match between John Moxley and Dante Martin. And John Moxley uh taunted Dante Martin to chop him, to palm strike him, to slap him. There are only two individuals on this planet that if I had to take a slap, they would be nowhere near the list. I don't want any of these individuals even entering into the competition. Eddie Kingston and Minoru Suzuki. No, because like they're just beasts of men. And as soon as they get in there, like as tough as these two guys are, you know they're going to face off. Um, like they're just gonna slap each other silly. It's gonna be intense. It's gonna be great, and someone is just gonna have hamburger meat for a chest for about a week.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in watching this one to have the sort of familiarity with Jericho and Guevara play off of the super intense nature that Minoru Suzuki is. And again, you're in for a treat if you have not seen or familiar with Minoru Suzuki. Incredible look, just all around tough guy for sure. And then to face off against the combination of Wheeler Yuta, again, our Ring of Honor pure champion, who now is back from his, I don't want to say excursion to New Japan, but he was part of the Best of Super Juniors. Shota Umino, again, sort of John Moxley's kind of, I don't want to say like understudy in a sense, but for those that aren't familiar, he is New Japan ref's Red Shoes' son. And the history between Mox and he and Shota is they had a match for the IWGP United States Championship at Dominion in 2019. And after a hard-fought match, Moxley appreciated and ended up being his tag partner. So they have some history there. And then obviously with the other players involved in the skirmish, Eddie Kingston, good friend of Mox and type of thing. So that team is going to be sort of heavy hitters. And again, another opportunity for Shota Umino to have some visibility on a Western stage.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that's going to be super good for a lot of these individuals. Like I've been saying through the entire episode, like I'm not a big NJPW fan, mainly because of lack of availability for me to watch. And one individual that outside of outside of individuals in the women's division actually, with the likes of Riho, people that I've seen before. Another one is Minoru Suzuki. Like he is pretty well known. Seen him on different occasions, and it'll be really interesting to see Shota, see him turn out and see what the deal is. Because obviously, if you've been acknowledged by John Moxley as a competitor, and you're going to be going up with names like Chris Jericho, and or because he fought against Chris Jericho as well. So these other things, like these guys coming in are just going to have such a good showing, because they've done it before. These aren't new matches for them, but they're new matches for us, and that's what I really appreciate about this style of pay-per-view, mixing the two companies, showing the best of what they've got, the up and coming of what they've got on both sides, really. So it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to, and this 6-man tag is gonna be brutal. And isn't it after Blood and Guts?
So this will be Sunday the 26th and then
Mhm.
the couple days later on Dynamite 29 will be Blood and Guts. So
That
yeah,
was it. So just before Blood and Guts, Eddie Kingston's going to get his hands on Chris Jericho, maybe soften him up.
remains to be seen how we do it. As let me ask you this as we wind down this segment here. You touched on a little bit before that you just didn't maybe have as many opportunities to be familiar with New Japan and their combatants. Has the past couple of weeks done a serviceable job in familiarizing you with the players involved in the game here? Has it hooked you, or are you interested in these competitors for the upcoming pay-per-view?
It's a very good question. Very interesting points to be made. Because I had made mention of uh, United Empire and how they had hooked me and how I had wanted to learn a bit more about them. Mentions of Minoru Suzuki and stuff that I had seen these characters. Yes and no.
Okay.
The no side. We'll start with the no side first. Is no because there hasn't been much in the way of seeing Shota Umino. We haven't seen him. Um, Tanahashi has had 2 appearances, maybe 3 appearances, and one of them was him sort of being lambasted in the ring. Um, and there was one other, I think, but Ishii hasn't. I haven't seen Ishii, so like the build up has been good and good enough to get me interested in this pay per view because they're using the right names. I've heard of the names because you have people that have been to NJPW, have fought there, like your Moxes, like your best friends who've been over there, Roppongi Vice. You have your FTR that have wanted to fight people from NJPW. You have your Chris Jericho who's been over there and done things for NJPW as well. They've all mentioned these. So in the past 3 years, I've got a passing knowledge of, well, Jericho and Mox are big names. So for them to give credit to the likes of Tanahashi and Suzuki and everybody else uh, is a big deal to me. So this pay per view has got them set up to be on a pedestal and has got them set up ready and primed for me to go. If I like what I see, I'm definitely going to try and watch more NJPW, uh, get to grips with some of these guys, see what's going on. And you never know, if this pay-per-view does a really good job, we might start covering NJPW because I might want to request that we do some more NJPW stuff. So there is only good things that can come from this pay-per-view, in my opinion.
Excellent point. I think, yeah, so at least it's did its job. It sparked its interest. It's made you interested and want to check it out. So I think at least mission accomplished.
I 100% agree.
All right, let us also know down below your thoughts on the build and if you too are interested in watching the Forbidden Door. All right, as we switch gears now, coming up to quick hits. Quick hits are little segments that happen throughout the week that we are always interested or want to make note of, or specifically Pop the Boys that we had a lot of fun kind of watching. So I will start off first. I only have one from this week, and it comes from this past Monday Night Raw, where we saw MVP Montel Vontavious Porter win with the overdrive over Cedric Alexander. Again, John Blood, still love you, brother, but the overdrive was hit on Cedric Alexander for the win, prevailing for MVP.
Yeah. What could be said? I was watching this segment and I had to rewind it because mine eyes, I thought they deceived me. When MVP is like, was that the overdrive? Like, what? Rewind it, watch it again. It was the overdrive. Quickly message PT. Did you see MVP one with the overdrive thing? So, yeah, it was hilarious. It was great.
Yeah, again, it's one of those moves that it has an interesting setup, and again, a lot of folks have kind of had it. Most prominently, MVP. I think he calls it the playmaker or the play of the day, but it's been traditionally known as the overdrive. Randy Orton started it, using it before early when he got called up to WWE in 2002. Before he kind of switched to the crossbody, and then subsequently the RKO. A number of people have had it, but yeah, it's not a high rate of success move. But yeah, and again, when I saw it, I also too had to be like, wait, did he hit it? And I was like, there's no way. 2, 3. Oh, well then. So that definitely took me by surprise and definitely popped me. So again, still love you, John Blood. I'm sorry, but the overdrive won. So that was it. That was it for me. Joker, do you have any quick hits?
I do. This time I have 2. I know last week, I think it was, I had absolutely none. It was an abysmal. I was in a sorry state of the week with wrestling this week. You can include the MVP winning with the overdrive for me because, like I said, I legitimately popped. I had to rewind and watch and then message PT about it, just to double check that he indeed did see and was impressed by the overdrive winning. I didn't do anything last week for them, but Max Caster and the Ass Claimed coming out this week with his rap, a specific line. If you've been keeping up with the outside of wrestling news, popped me when he said, "Honestly, I had something to say, but somebody made me sign an NDA." And yeah, there was a little bit of a hot collar going on there.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
really do like Max Caster. I think he's hilarious. His raps are on point. I love the hate that he gets for poking the barrier, poking the bear of Vince McMahon. There was like a few weeks ago him being quite rude in front of the star for Vince McMahon on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, I believe, or whatever it's called. Um, I don't even know what it is called, but it was outside his star, and I think he was flipping the bird. And yeah, this is just another one of those things that anytime he's going to want to say something racy, uh, is going to pretty much always pop me.
Yeah, when I heard that during the entrance, I was like, oh geez, I here we go. A nice little jab at it. It's like one of those if you know, you know, but
Yeah,
it was good.
yeah,
So
it definitely was. And my second quick hit for the week was during the aforementioned Orange Cassidy return to do the big save, as he definitely did. He got in the ring and everybody was celebrating and cheering. And just in the corner of my eye, I just had a wee bit of a chuckle because you saw Dax after his match, he's holding his head. He just had one of these wee thumbs up. That was it. Didn't Nothing said. Just Orange Cassidy stood there. Dax kind of stood behind him, going. I think his was more like that because it wasn't quite an Orange Cassidy sort of lazy one. His was a bit more energetic. But I got the notion, and I appreciate that. And the fact that FTR are faces now is something I didn't know I needed, but they're great.
yeah, it was a cool dynamic again to see a little bit of the hard man or the kind of the straight guys in FTR and the kind of serious business kind of guys. Uh, be able to kind of break the mold or just kind of let the guard down and do a little bit of bollocks or a little bit of gaga and just do just the simple Orange Cassidy kind of thumbs up type of thing. I think it was kind of good. And yeah, apparently FTR again having being faces sort of happened organically, and the fans really got behind. And yeah, they've just like they get huge pops when they come out.
Yeah, it definitely has been very organic. I think probably around the rumors of the Bret Hart stuff. Them wanted to bring Bret Hart into AEW, and things like that. There, and then probably starting to gain traction around the time they won the Ring of Honor tag champs from
The Briscoes.
name the Briscoes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right.
And then had that confrontation. Names, dude. It's just names.
Line Briscoes. Thank you. Briscoes.
Briscoes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for repeating. So yeah, it was one of those things that they then had the confrontation with the. Swear I'm not doing it on purpose. The Young Bucks. There we go.
Young Bucks. There you go.
My brain legitimately had Briscoes in its head for a long
time. I wanted
to
give you a chance there.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciated that chance because I was legitimately not trying to at that time. But yeah, whenever they got that really good match with the Briscoes and had that confrontation with the Young Bucks, so you got them that time. Yeah, that's whenever things started to really pick up for them as faces, because they came out and the save, and it was really, really good. And I like to see it. It's something whenever the organic sort of turn happens, you really appreciate it more than the I've come back after injury and I'm now a face.
Yeah, it always feels more genuine, or kind of when they hit those story notes and it feels right, and again happens organically, then that's due, as opposed to like some half dumb-fisted kind of attempt at doing a thing that's going to fall flat. So
yeah, definitely.
All right, well, I appreciate it so much, and if you folks have quick hits, definitely let us know down in the comment section down below on the YouTube video format, or as well on Twitter and Instagram. Definitely let us know. So for that about wraps it up for us. Joker, how is it for you? Because it felt good for me.
It was very good this week. There's an awful lot more stuff that we could talk about. Granted, we're only talking about one thing this week, but I really enjoyed every single topic that we went over today. And like I said, I cannot wait for this pay-per-view.
Yeah, agreed. We mentioned it in the opening, but yeah, like I said, there's a lot of kind of single news element broke, and one thing happened, and really the contents of the meat and potatoes of it is really just speculation and hearsay and kind of, yeah. So again, we rather than kind of talking about running in circles or repeating ourselves, talking about for tens and 20s, maybe an hour, about things that we just kind of don't know, or really it's not going to flush out, we decided to go with something a little bit more tangible here, so we can actually just have a conversation, and and just kind of have a good back and forth.
Yeah, definitely. It also leads into the stuff that we have planned for future episodes as well, where we're going to have to do some other stuff. So stay tuned, see what happens. But this was definitely one of those that had a lot of legs once we were able to put them under us.
Yeah, for sure. So for TF0ker,
I promise I will write down every wrestler's name next week and never forget a single one.
And for me, PrettyTony, we thank you for your time, letting us be a part of your day, and remember, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Bye.